My favorite line of the book. He opens his eyes and gives me one of those looks that pierces through my very soul. If I weren't already naked, I'd feel completely naked. Katie, question. Would you, for $250,000, spend a night having sex with a stranger billionaire? Would that be enough money for you? Because it was for Ellie. I have a series for you, okay? This is gonna be like 5 books long, just to give you some anticipation. It's about money, who has money, who doesn't have money, sex auctions, and following your dreams. Also, everyone lives in an apartment that is paid for by their parents. That's the secret. That's how people live in New York City. Ellie and Mr. Black / Aiden. Aiden becomes Mr. Black when it's sexy times. Ellie is a writer. She graduated from Yale and now she works with her best friend / secret love, Tom, at BuzzPost. They could have gotten together in college. They had shared a kiss one night, but she had just gotten out of a relationship and she just needed time in between relationships. After the kiss, he gets with their current boss, soon becomes engaged to her. He basically chose this woman that she doesn't like over her, but she's still secretly in love with him and she's still kind of friends with him. She rooms with her best friend Caroline. They share this New York City apartment, I think on the Upper West Side or something. Caroline works at some art gallery. They only make $25,000 a year or something. Their parents have to pay their rent. Caroline comes from a rich family, but Ellie's parents, her mom ended up remarrying to this rich guy, and so her stepfather pays for all these things. She kind of doesn't like that. However, this does not stop her accepting money from her stepfather. She just draws the line at, okay, I'm gonna pay back my $150,000 student loans by myself. One day, Caroline gets this exclusive invitation to this yacht party that's secretive, but there's all these rumors going around of what actually happens at the yacht party. No one really knows. And no one knows who owns the yacht. And Caroline convinces Ellie to go with her to this party. Ellie doesn't really want to go. She has this conversation with Tom, and he's all you shouldn't go to that party. It's not for you. That makes her decision. She's still mad at him for getting married to this woman that she hates. Instead of being in love with her because she's in love with him, she goes to this party kind of to spite him, which is the best reason to choose to do anything in your life, is to spite someone else. Ellie goes with Caroline, fly this private helicopter onto the yacht. Now it's auction time. The women will be auctioned off to the men. Highest bidder wins them for the night, sexually, whatever they want to do. And this is totally consensual, okay? The women are given a choice to say no. If they say no, they can go home, but if they say yes, they have to sign a contract. The bidding starts at $10,000. The funds are immediately transferred to you before the evening activities commence. And then after that night, you're free to go and you have all this money. That sounds like the best deal ever. Caroline is uncomfortable with it and she says no, but Ellie's well, YOLO. I need to pay off $150,000 of my student loans, and maybe it'll be fun. When Ellie gets on stage, she gets sold to Mr. Black, girl, the owner of the yacht, for $250,000. Most of the other girls go for $80,000 to $90,000, but Ellie's just a regular average girl with curves, okay? For an English major from Yale, $250,000 is actually a pretty good stud fee or a pimp fee or whatever it's called. If it were me, I would seriously consider it. She gets escorted to this room and prepared for Mr. Black to come. How Mr. Black requests Ellie to be prepared is to be blindfolded and to be put in this sexy lingerie and handcuffed to the bed. And they just have an amazing time. At one point, there's this glass on the wall that reveals a threesome going on. They are professional sex people. It's for Mr. Black's and whoever his guest is, they're watching pleasure. Ellie is just, her eyes are opened. This is a sexual renaissance for her. And they have this immediate soul connection, okay? He learns that she has this student debt to pay off, and then he's well, what are you gonna do with the rest of it? He's you should just quit your job because you hate it. She's you're right. The next morning, she gets taken back home, but before she gets onto the helicopter, he asks for her number Well, he already has her number from his assistant, but he's like, can I call you sometime? Because he's totally enamored with her. And she's like, okay. So when she gets home, she like quits her job, but Tom's like, where are you going? You can't leave me here alone. She's like, what are you talking about? Our boss is your fiance. I thought you were madly in love with her. The next day or something, he comes to her house. Why can you just all of a sudden quit? Are you gonna lean on your stepfather's money? And she tries not to tell him about the experience she had with Mr. Black and the money that she got for having sex with him. She was just afraid that he was gonna judge her. She eventually told him, and of course he judged her without saying so many words, called her a whore. You know what? Fuck you. Leave. I want you out of my apartment. She also reveals that she's been in love with him, but now that she's met Mr. Black, she doesn't like Tom anymore. She has like this renewed sense of self, like all of this confidence all of a sudden. Tom is feeling like rejected and he kisses her and she's like, what are you doing? She felt nothing in that kiss, especially compared to Mr. Black, okay? Mr. Black and Ellie's kisses were soul connections. Then she gets a phone call from Mr. Black and he's like, I need to see you again. So he offers her more money to spend a week with him. And that's when he tells her his real name is Aiden Black. So he's like, okay, I'll send you directions soon of where to meet me. And when I send you that message, you need to come to me immediately. And she's like, okay. She goes out with Caroline and some of her friends. When they're at the bar having some drinks, she gets the text from Mr. Black that says to meet me at this building somewhere in 10 minutes. There doesn't seem to be anything there. He takes her inside up to the top floor, and it's this private sex club. At first, Ellie doesn't realize that it's a sex club because that first room is just like a bar with people that are dressed. And then he's like, let's go down the hallway. And this next room is full of a bunch of people having orgies and threesomes, and she freaks out. He follows her and he's like, what's wrong? She was like totally offended, and at first he thinks that she's totally overreacting. On Aiden's side, he's still thinking that he can just move on after Ellie and just still keep his lifestyle of having sex wherever. He all of a sudden starts thinking of Ellie again, and he just can't. He can't have sex with any other women, and that's when he realized that he's falling for Ellie. She is the first woman to not fawn over him and to give him everything that he wants. I don't think he knows where she lives yet, so he just calls her phone over and over and over again, leaves a bunch of apology messages. I just thought that our night together, you seemed up for that kind of thing. What he had in his head was, let's watch some other people have sex, and then maybe, that will turn us on and we can go to our own private room and have sex by ourselves. So since Ellie didn't have a job anymore, she decided to start writing a book that she was interested in writing, which turned out to be a romance novel. And she thought, you know what? I'm gonna write a book about my experience the first night with Mr. Black. Mr. Black tries calling her again, even though she did not return any of his apology message calls. But this time she picks up. I shouldn't have assumed. Can I please see you again? And she says yes. She's like, is this like a date though? And he's like, yes, this is an official date. Guess where he takes her? The New York Public Library. Ellie loves the New York Public Library. I've never been to this library, but I guess they have a restaurant or something, or some type of like catered service. They have dinner there, and it's like this fancy dinner with like fancy bottles of wine, and she's like so overwhelmed. He would go to the effort of making this their first date so romantic and special. And after dinner, he invites her over to his place, and they have these wonderful conversations about books, and she totally is falling even more in love with him because he is so literate. They end up making love. They just penetrated into each other's souls, okay? So even though they're kind of together, they don't really know how to deal with their feelings. Neither of them have ever felt this way about anybody. So a week later, he invites her to another party at his yacht, which the party had been scheduled for weeks, like before they even met. So he's like, I sent you the invitation just so we can, maybe be together. She's thinking, I want to be with you. I don't want to be auctioned off to someone else. So at the end of this week, he had given her more money, like an extra $500,000 that first week that they started dating. But because they were falling for each other, her. He's like, I don't want to give her any more money because I want her to be with me because she wants to be with me. So Ellie gets this invitation to another yacht party. There may or may not be another auction. She doesn't know. All she knows is she wants to be with Aiden. And this time, Caroline is there. I'm jealous that you had a nice time and that you actually met someone. I regret that I didn't stay for the auction last time. And if there's an auction, I want to be auctioned off. So Ellie and Aiden are going to be together. But I have a feeling that the second yacht party may not go as planned. And there might be some things that escalate.